Hello, and thank you for tuning into this video about my ritualized journey to winning $27,000 worth of prizes on The Price is Right. My name is Kenya Wright, and I am the founder of Butterfly Birthworks. We provide natural building solutions, transformational coaching, and in the future, birth work to people all around the world. Today, I am taking you through the ceremonies and rituals that I performed that brought me to great success on the show The Price is Right. This is very much a story, so please get comfortable as I take you through my journey. I share all of the following stories in the hopes that you are inspired and that you know how great your power is once you learn how to wield it. I also hope that if any of you have dealt with sexual trauma or domestic violence, that my story of reclamation is possible for you too. So, for those of you who don't know, I was on The Price is Right. The episode aired on September 28th, 2022, which was just 3 days after my birthday. And I won a bunch of prizes. As incredible and miraculous as that was, I must admit that my journey to The Price is Right starts in a very dark place. If you were brought here by my misguided mess story, then you know that sexual assault is a part of my past and it triggered a much deeper experience with healing and transformation. I went on the show, it taped in August 2022, and this story begins in April 2022, 4 months before. I was a few weeks into devoting myself fully to my business. I was working with a business coach who is also my Reiki teacher and my shamanic journey teacher. She's awesome. And with her, I was starting to confront my fears and really getting real about my vision for Butterfly Birthworks. It was a terrifying process at the start, and something that began to happen was all of my worst fears that I shoved to the side and forget about, they were all coming through in nightmares. Like these deep seated, disgusting, violent, horrible fears that I didn't even realize were present for me. They were all coming up as nightmares. And in one particular nightmare, my ex was in this nightmare. Imagine this horror. Like someone I love and appreciate was in this nightmare abusing me. I shared this with my coach, and she's also an Isis priestess, and she taught me how to do some magic to rewrite the nightmare. This was by far the worst one of my life. It referenced the assault, but as I said before, my ex was in it in a way worse way. So, of course, I was very shook up by this. I woke up not wanting to go back to sleep ever again. And I talked to her, and she taught me how I can use my shamanic journey practice to rewrite the nightmare. It was a specific adjustment to the classic shamanic journey form, and I was able to take myself into the dream and to change it. The reason that I entered the shamanic space to do this was for my own safety. Because in the shamanic realms, I know how to bring myself into and out of a ritual very clearly. I have very strict boundaries with this process that I don't necessarily have if I were just to try and meditate my way into the dream. And since it was this very dense and dark energy, I wanted to be careful. I didn't want to bring any of that back into the waking realm. I wanted to be perfectly safe. I was really scared to even rewrite the dream in the first place, but I felt like if I don't do this, how am I going to go to sleep? So, I went back into the nightmare. I changed the narrative to one of triumph, and I confronted my rapist in this dream. I beat him up. I did all kinds of things with the knowing that any violence done in a shamanic container would not radiate out to anyone who was living. So I was able to confront this person and really reclaim my energy and my strength. Afterwards, I was so surprised. Like, I was so scared to go into it. But once I was in there, I had so much fun. Like, I felt so free, so confident, so safe, so empowered. And I began to realize that I could protect myself. A few days later, I followed up with a processing ceremony. I drew imagery of what happened to me in my assault. It was very gory and tough. I put on this sad music and I looked at all of the images that I drew and I just cried for a really long time and I let myself be sad. And I let myself honor this really dark thing that had happened instead of trying to like hide it away. I think it was a week later that I had been sitting with this energy of protection and I was on my cycle. I had known about blood rituals for a while, and there were some that I was used to practicing, and then there were others that I was just completely opposed to. For some reason, after rewriting my dream, I felt open to a particular blood ritual for the very first time, and a part of me was craving it to a certain extent. I didn't really know why. In this ritual, you collect your menstrual blood. I used a cup and a menstrual cup, and you massage this blood onto your body. Like you put it onto your arms, you put it onto your face. Your menstrual blood has stem cells, so it's actually like a really great face mask. And I stood in the shower and I did this. At first, I felt so ashamed, so dirty, so afraid someone was gonna barge in on me, even though I lived by myself. And I just thought I was gonna be attacked for doing this crazy ritual. And I was just like, oh, I'm so weird. Like, why do I do this? Why am I even trying this? But I told myself, okay, I just have to make it through. And so I focused on my breath, and eventually I began to enjoy it. I started to wish I had more blood. I relished in it, and suddenly I just felt my creative energy just explode from inside of me, and I was just buzzing, and it filled my whole body and radiated out. So, our wombs, they are home to the sacral chakra, which is the seat of creation, of pleasure, and also emotions. So, if we've gone through something difficult in our lives, a lot of times our emotions get stuck in this womb space. So, when we do the more darker work, looking at our nightmares, looking at our blood, giving us giving ourselves space and time to process, we can clear out some of that stuck emotion, and then there's more space for creativity and pleasure. So anyway, like I said, I'm covered in my own blood. It's all, dried now, and I feel my creative energy just radiating out. And I just started dancing, like I put on all this music. I started twerking and I was just wishing, I was like, man, I was so afraid at first and ashamed, and now I wish everyone could see me in this state. Like, this is so cool. Like, I'm claiming my blood. This is tight. And I felt so sexy. I was no longer embarrassed or afraid of my blood. And I even left it on during a call because I just wanted it to be there. And I knew that there was this level of empowerment that was coming to me by doing this ritual. So at the end, I walked to the beach and I rinsed off there. Basically, no one was on the path to the beach. It was so cool and perfect. No one noticed I had blood on my skin. It was divine. I offered my blood to the ocean and I gave thanks for this two-part reclamation of my sexual, or I guess it was three parts actually, reclamation of my sexual and creative power. And I felt clear and very open to miracles. So, guess what happened next? Just 2 days later, I was on a site visit for a construction client, and he told me about how he was on a vacation to Costa Rica and he loved it, and he realized very soon on the trip that he wanted to actually move to Costa Rica. So, what he did was he instantly started looking at land and applied for the PPP loan, which I had never even heard about this until I was meeting with this man. But the PPP loan, for those who don't know, came through the United States and it allowed you to borrow $25,000 from the government during COVID, and you didn't have to pay it back. It had loan forgiveness. So it was basically a free $25,000. So this guy got approved for it, and that's how he bought the land. Now, in this moment, there's basically two options, right? It's like I can be jealous and be like, dang, you just got $25,000 random and just bought a house, like, or I mean, bought land. Like, why didn't I get that, right? But the mood that I was in after all of these ceremonies and rituals, instantly had me thinking, oh shoot, there's just like $25,000 things just like out there in the world and you can just claim them. Like, I wonder, like, does the universe have $25,000 for me? So I went home and I thought to myself, okay, what's the easiest way I can be given $25,000? And what came through was The Price is Right. A year or so before, my brother had been on the show and he won $12,000. And he, was telling everyone, he still tells everyone, you should just go on the show. You can probably win something. And, he tells me this. I'm like, oh, woe is me. Like, I'm going to be in Costa Rica a lot of the time. This is too complicated. How am I going to know when I'm going to be in LA? Like, will I be able to afford to just drop everything and just go there at random? Like, how long is this going to take? Like, ugh, that would have been nice if I had known about this a few years ago. But now it's impossible for me to go on this show. That's how my vibe was before. After all these ceremonies, after meeting this guy, I was like, what? Anything is possible. Let me just reach out. And at the time, I knew I was going to be in California for 2 months during the summer. So I was just like, all right, why don't we just see if we can win $25,000 this summer? So I reached out to casting. They said, okay, we open up in June. So I set a reminder and I applied right away in June. A week or so passed and I did not hear anything. I reached out to the casting people and it turns out I had filled the application out incorrectly. I basically said that I, knew the casting person, but I didn't. I was just on her referral list because my brother had been on the show. Apparently, if you personally know her, you are ineligible to play. But if you're just on the referral list, obviously that's the whole point of the list. They want you to apply for the show. So she had to reach out to the producers, let them know, like, hey, I'm not ineligible, actually read her application. And they approved it, and I had a virtual interview. As I was waiting for the response from that virtual interview, I just continued with my daily Reiki practice. And I was preparing for my Reiki Master initiation, which happened in July 2022. And in the prep information, my teacher was sharing how she felt after receiving her master attunement. She said she felt totally clear and inspired, and like she had received this major energetic upgrade in a short amount of time, and that her magnetic ability to just attract all of these different things that she had been wanting was just increased like 10, 20 fold. I don't know, by a lot. And I wanted that so badly. I was like, I'm putting myself out here. I'm trying to get on this game show. Like, I know when I'm a Reiki master, there's no way I'm losing on the show. So I just focused on my Reiki practice that summer, and I had my Reiki Master attunement in July, and she was right. No, it was like I just felt so good after that, and it just felt like peace, and it felt like the world was a little bit brighter, and it just was like, okay, I don't know exactly how everything is gonna go, but I know everything's definitely working in my favor at this point in life. Couple weeks later, after my Reiki Master initiation, I received the text. They said, you have been invited to join the audience for The Price is Right. And the recording date was August 3rd. And by the way, I was not even supposed to be in the country on August 3rd. I was supposed to leave July 15th. And the house I was renting in Costa Rica was, not available. It was pushed back a month. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do in this extra month? What I'm going to do is go on TV. So I just happened to still actually be in town by August 3rd. And they text you just about a week before the show. I went home and I instantly booked a flight and an Airbnb. And because although I have friends and family in LA that I could stay with and I could take the bus or even drive, all these things, I knew that what I needed to do in order to be in the best state for this was to cocoon my energy, to go into a meditative chrysalis, to make sure that my energy was just clear for the taping. All summer, I have been researching articles of people who have been on the show, and I was just looking at what did folks win? What games were people most likely to win? What did people do with their prizes? And what I arrived at was that I had the highest chance of winning either cash or a car. And winning a car was better than winning money because most people who won a car had a higher the car had a higher value than the cash prizes people actually walked away with. So I knew I wanted to win a car and I also wanted to win some cash to cover the taxes. And I only watched a handful of episodes because that's what I had capacity for. It was a very busy summer. So on August 2nd, I flew down to LAX. I got some nourishing vegan soul food. It was so good. I wanted to have nutrients. I wanted fruits and vegetables. I wanted to be hydrated. I just wanted all of the parts of my body to be really taken care of for this experience. And I got to the Airbnb, I took a shower, and I entered ceremony immediately. In the Airbnb, I started with a shamanic journey. It was the day after Lammas, which is a solar holiday that marks the halfway point between summer solstice and fall equinox. So there are 8 of these solar holidays. There's 2 solstices, 2 equinoxes, and then there are 4 halfway points in between those dates. And in ancient Egyptian and Celtic communities, and probably most ancient cultures, if not all, these holidays were recognized as marking parts of the year and as times to really honor the different seasons. So, on all the solar holidays, I always do a light activation to receive the energy of that day. And it really helps me to tune into the cyclical nature of time. The Lammas celebration is about the harvest that you've earned. And it's it might be the first harvest that would happen in ancient Egypt. And that was the energy that we were working with on this day. So I entered the shamanic realms, and it kind of makes sense that on Lammas, the day of harvest, the journey was totally about abundance. So in this journey, I was brought to this golden wheat field, and it was on a hill, and I was surrounded by just endless hills. They were thick and they were full with this golden wheat. The sky itself was golden and the sun was huge. And I saw myself laying there in the midst of all of this prosperity, and I was just playing. Like I was just like laying in this wheat, and I was just like rolling around in it and just feeling how good it felt to be tickled by all of this wheat. It was fully a sensual experience. I could feel it in my actual physical body. And I was laughing like a child. Like I was just laying there laughing. I was full of joy and love and presence. I had not a care in the world. I was fully relaxed. And as I was laying there, a voice said, "This is the energy of abundance." And I knew that all I had to do was embody this frequency of love and joy and presence and being in my body throughout the time on the show, and I would win. At a certain point, this fairy came in and was hovering over me, and she did some kind of like energy healing on my body. We didn't speak to each other. Afterwards, I was transported and I was in this really dark cave. And 3 spiritual guides were with me. They did not reveal their identity. I didn't know who they were. I wondered because I had been working on this earth and plaster artwork that represented 3 goddesses. And I wondered if it was like, is it you guys? But it was clear I was not meant to know who they were. They each had a piece of a crystal in their hands, and one was standing in front of me, and then one was on either side of me. And they each had a piece of this crystal, and they were walking towards me, and they merged the crystal at my heart. It was very powerful. And yet I felt vulnerable and I felt scared. And I cried out. I said, "Thank you for this healing, but who has my back?" And to my complete shock, Jesus Christ appears at my back, fully lit up, a body of light. The entire cave was glowing, and my spirit just settled. Jesus has my back. And the four of them, still united their hands in my heart, and I just got totally lit up with light in all directions. And I just soaked in this blessing, and I made my way back to the physical realm. I closed the ceremony with a Reiki meditation to ground this energy of abundance and this support from Christ. After the ceremony was complete, I looked at prices for SUVs and cell phones, and then I took myself to bed and headed to the show. The next day, I made it through all of the interviews and paperwork and the waiting. There's a lot of waiting. I welcomed Reiki for the day, and I was in deep prayer and contemplation as I listened for guidance. And I also just enjoyed meeting the other contestants. Like, we had so much fun, and we were all so grateful to have even made it there. At every single step, I gave profound thanks. It's a miracle I even made it to this step. Oh my gosh, thank God I passed my COVID test after having been exposed to COVID the week before. Like, ah, when we finally got into the recording studio, I felt it was my moment to stand out. They were playing this loud club music, and so I instantly started dancing. I had felt I had missed my opportunities before to stand out and be very gregarious, and I prayed. I was like, if I'm given one more chance, I'll do anything. I don't care what it is. And then what it was dancing, which is something I love to do. So it was just natural. And I stood up and I danced for 45 minutes until they were ready to start taping. And Joey Grace, this awesome woman next to me, she danced with me. And it was just us dancing. Okay, no one else got up. Some people were like doing this with their hands, but we got up and we busted down. Okay. Uh, then the taping started, and my name was not called. Okay, we had a first round, we had a second round, crickets for Kenya. I think it was the third round where I finally heard my name, recognized it right away, was so excited, screamed like a little girl, was jumping around, had no idea I had hops like that anymore. I went down to guess against three other people for a chance to get on the stage for a large prize. Now, in the first and second round, back when I was in my seat, not actually playing, I had the best guess from my seat about the prize. I was like, yes, I know how to do this. I'm good. When I actually got down there to play, I had no clue and was overpriced for 3 rounds of guessing. Okay, imagine making it this far in this process. 4 months since I had the idea and did the application wrong and finally got approved and flew down there and all this stuff and knew the answers for 2 rounds, and then all of a sudden I didn't. So for 3 rounds of guessing, I don't know the answer. And I'm just like, what's going on here? I'm so sad. Now, I've made it to the last round of the show. Since I've been up there so long, I get to guess last, which is the advantageous spot to be in. This is the last chance. If I get this wrong, I'm not winning anything. Except I guess $200 because they charge my name. They call my name. But anyway, so now, if you remember, the night before, I only researched SUVs and cell phones. I didn't have capacity to look into anything else, and that's what I wanted to win. Now, what prize drops down from the sky? A Google Pixel Pro and a phone sanitizer. It's like, perfect. I know this one. And because I was last, I was able to guess last. The guy before me, he said 999, which is exactly what I was gonna guess. So I went up to him and did 1,000, and I was the closest to the actual price, and I made it on the stage. The price was 1,010, so made it by the skin of my teeth. And now things got even more specific, right? They revealed to me my prize, and what I was playing for was a Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. 4 months prior, or 5 months prior, I had received a grant to upgrade my car, and I bought a Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. So not only did I have the intention to win a car that I would later sell, not only had I researched SUV prices the very night before, But now I was also playing for a different version of a car that I already had. And all I can say to that is Ashe. Clearly, it was a gift from the ancestors. And I was so overwhelmed internally with emotion. I just cried out with in relief. I was just like, thank you. Yes. It's just like, what are the odds? I didn't even know they had Mitsubishi on the show. So I was shook, but I still had to play. So I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but at this point, there was no way I could fail. And I knew that all of my parents, prayer warriors, were asking Jesus to guide me on the day and that they all had my back. And so I just welcomed in that love. My job was to guess the right numbers of the car and to follow the correct path of the numbers on this lit up game board. They gave me the first amount, which was a 2. Intuitively, I felt the next number was either 5 or 6, and I had a stronger pulse towards 5. My intuitive sense, it comes through feeling and cognitive downloads, so that's what I listen to. Your intuition may sound or feel different. I stepped on the 5 and ding, 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 ding. Correct. The next number, I felt a very loud 8 internally. I stepped on the 8. Ding, 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 ding. Now, the next number, I had 0 intuitive sense about. No clue at all, straight up crickets. I was lost. I step on the wrong number. They have this little do-over. I get 3 of them in case I mess up. And when I get to the do-over, my intuition, boop, back online. I feel strongly about the alarm clock. I guess the correct number. Ding, ding, ding. Back in the game. But dang, I still don't have a sense of what's the correct answer. And there's 2 more choices. I misstep again. I redo my guess. I have another redo and I choose the curling iron. There was some very strong guidance towards what's correct. And phew, I do it correctly. And now I'm down to the very last number. There is 1 redo left and there is 1 number for me to guess left for the price of this car. I don't know what the answer for the redo is, so I'm hoping my intuitive sense comes back. And it does. I centered myself and I listened to my felt sense and I knew that 0 was the correct answer. Closed my eyes and stepped forward onto the 0 and ding 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 ding. I won a car. I did it. I'm just screaming, I'm jumping. I was like, can I get inside? And I run to the car. I went inside and I was just over the moon. It was such a high. It was just wait, what? After all this, I did it? It really just happened just like that? And at that point, I didn't even want to do the showcase. I wanted to just opt out of even trying for that because I really wanted someone who lost their game to experience winning. And that is exactly what happened. After the show, I was just sitting and wondering, wow, I was literally guided to exactly what I wanted to manifest, but why didn't my intuition guide me to the answer for the number that I didn't know? I didn't know until we went into the prize room after the show, but everything that we guessed correctly on, we win. So I won the phone. I won the phone sanitizer. I won the car. And I also won the smart alarm clock and the curling iron from my redos. And here's where the story becomes even more magical. I went on the show hoping for a car, a cell phone, and some cash. I won the car that I knew I was going to sell and use the funds to buy tools and equipment in a car in Costa Rica. I won a super nice phone, which I needed at the time because I had a US number and I also had, or I wanted to keep my US number and I also had a Costa Rican number. I also want the smart alarm clock. It's super cute. It has these meditations in it and white noise and ocean sounds and a gentle wake up pattern. It's new tech. I really hate alarms, and I knew I was gonna have to start using one when I started doing construction. And I was really concerned and stressed that having to use an alarm would mess up my sleep in the way that it had in the past. And then here on the redo, I unknowingly ended up winning the perfect alarm for me at a time when I desperately needed that. Lastly, the curling iron. I was able to give it to my mom, and she really wanted to be a part of the experience. And now she has a piece of my prize that she'll probably have, for the rest of her life. So every single thing that I won was completely ordained for me to win. The universe, my guides, my intuition, they did not miss one step. It was all perfectly imperfect. So, what are my takeaways from this? Confronting our darkness leads to way more light than we've ever experienced. I fully believe I had to look at my traumatic past in order to be open to this experience. Ritual can open doors that you've previously closed yourself. We go through these energetic shifts every time we practice ritual and ceremony and energy healing. And the things that we may have had resistance to or we thought we couldn't do, we start to chip away at those things, and all of a sudden we feel open. Be patient as the universe works its magic for you. I often think things will happen instantly, but there is a timing that's best, and it's typically longer than what I hope for. There were so many elements out of my control that had to be shifted in order for me to be available on the very day that they asked me to come to the show. All of the answers to your problems are within yourself. Coaches and teachers can inspire and direct, but really all we're doing is helping you to understand how to uncover your own magic. What's for you cannot miss you. Please remember that I turned down this process twice before. I filled out my application incorrectly. I was supposed to be out of country on the taping date, and then I ended up making it there and winning exactly what I needed at that time. Lastly, when you hear that someone has achieved something that you want for yourself, rather than steep in jealousy and the reasons why you can't have something like that too, ask yourself, how can you create your own version of it in a way that's perfect for you? What opportunities are available that could bring a similar result? And how can you open yourself to be ready and willing to receive more from the universe? I'll end it there. If you are a woman identifying and would like to receive training in all of the rituals that I just shared with you, I would love nothing more than to support you in my course, Astral Authority. If that felt like a lot, but you're still kind of curious, if it feels like it's impossible to develop your intuition and the discipline and courage to practice these rituals, do not worry because I got you. I did not have any of these capabilities a few years ago, and I studied and practiced, and it all happened way faster than I thought. My biggest blocks were simply the beliefs that I couldn't do it and that I wasn't worthy of all of the love and magic that I learned was available for me. Little by little, those beliefs started to shift and the downloads became clearer, and I want that for everyone. I firmly believe anyone can be a Reiki master, anyone can learn how to shamanic journey and can live their life in a ritualized way and create all of the miracles that you've ever wanted. I want that for you. I want it for everyone. So please reach out if you are curious to learn more. Best wishes. Bye.